Non-Americans of Reddit, what are the rednecks of your country like? Japan, old purists who hate all foreigners and usually religions. They usually live far away from cities and tiny prefectures which everyone forgot existed. Brazil is pretty big and diverse, and we kinda have a different pejorative stereotype for the countryside of some 15 of our 26 states, so we don't have a redneck specifically. I guess the most direct and well-known equivalent would be the capiris, which when pejoratively applied means a poor dirt farmer in a remote region. Little village with a bunch of useless alcoholic bums optional, with no education, a funny accent, a full dialect, actually, and a rude demeanor with an overly slow mind. When used as a self-descript, it is usually meaning a hard-working and extremely religious farmer living by his own means with a few generations of family to sustain, a funny accent and some good honest hospitality if you manage to get through the initial distrust of strangers. The term is mostly used to parts of the southwest, south and central Brazil. Minas Gerais has an equivalent in the Capiu, literally grass cutters, while the northeast region in general has the Matuto. My granddad was the typical redneck from the northeast, a good Catholic, hard-working man who loved his cachaça. Your description is extremely accurate. I live in southern Brazil now, and the equivalent here would be a German guy from rural Santa Catarina. I am from BC, Canada. When I go to work, oil industry, my nickname is Tree Hugger. When I go home people say I am a redneck. I am confused. There's a sort of redneck hippie hybrid in BC. I know a lot of weed smoking, left-leaning nature lovers that also are 4x4 driving slednecks that like to shoot stuff. A full Albertan truck nuts enthusiast would consider them a Pinko Trudeau lover. But if they dared drive their lift to Tacoma down Vancouver's Commercial Drive, they'd draw a lot of derisive looks and eye rolls from the bearded. Germany doesn't have that strong of a backwoods subculture because population density is so high. We do have proles, which is derived from prolet, which of course is derived from the proletariat. Tracksuits, wife beaters, that kind of stuff. Don't forget bosonkels and free wild. South Africa, the Afrikaans Boers, farmers. They drive trucks, hunt a lot, drink a frick ton, and eat biltong, like beef jerky, but better, 24/7, but also some of the friendliest and nicest suckers you'll ever meet. In Poland, either tracksuit or full patriotic outfit, t-shirt with printed things like 1944 we remember and such. Not that I don't respect all the people that died or fought during the time. My grandpa took part in Warsaw Uprising. Like 80% chance of a crappy tattoo on one of his calves or a tribal, either a damsel-like haircut or bald, psycho fan of a football team, and doesn't tolerate anything that comes from out of Poland, besides kebab and pee. Probably wears a cross on his neck but doesn't go to church. I guess that's it. Oh, and loves any kind of alcohol that can make him aggressive. In Korea, I suppose it's the farmers. Not all farmers, but one specific group. I can't think of the right way to express the location of this group in English ATM. They have a pretty specific dialect. I guess it's similar to how a redneck would talk. It can be hard to understand them if you don't know the dialect well. They're seen as dumb by most people, and I guess they kinda can be because they don't really focus on school as much because the men usually go on to be farmers. 2. The girls are a bit different because they don't always stay. A lot of times they'll leave and go off to college instead. People kinda joke that the men they have to buy wives because all the women keep leaving. That's basically true, though. That's why the mail order bride business is booming between Korea and Vietnam. Here in Mexico we call them Los de Rancho, and while most of them are nice people, some of them are buttholes. They drink all night on the street and leave a mess. They tend to drive the biggest truck even though they live in the city, and they listen to narcocorridos loudly all night. They also go brag about being from the farm but they have never left the city. Also they dress like cowboys. Luxembourg, we call all rednecks farmers. It's become, unfairly, kind of an insult towards people that are not well dressed or speak with a heavy accent. Well, anyway, most of them are actual farmers and live in some remote villages in the north or east. 30 minutes drive to the capital is considered remote. Drink beer in their village pub, vote conservative and curse like sailors. They're pretty harmless and tend to take the pee out of strangers. What I like about them is that they keep many traditions alive. Talking about distances, I once had a girlfriend that lived 20 minutes away. I considered it a long distance relationship. When you live in a country where a 20 minutes drive can take you to 3 other countries, you have a different perception of time distance. At high school we would sometimes drive for lunch to France and drive back through Belgium. Luxembourg, I don't think remote means what you think it means. Belfast, Northern Ireland, millers, female, are partial to hoop earrings, high ponytails, swearing, equating the act of applying fake tan with acquiring knowledge, and the occasional teenage pregnancy. Spide steak smokes, male, prefer a variety of sports clothing, shaved heads with gelled fringes, gold teeth and a penchant for daytime drinking in the city center. The rednecks in Syria are the ones living in villages near the shore. They talk differently than others, and they use terms only they understand. They also dress like it's the Middle Ages and marry their cousins. I didn't know Syria had their own West Virginia. Campers in the Netherlands. Many folk are great just like people, but some of them just xenophobic slow learners, big loud ugly people involved in their own little community and frick the rest. UK. Dirty chavs. 3 things make a chav. Hoodie, Adidas leggings, earphones. Bonus points for being out at 11, playing rap music loudly, carrying a knife, matching hoodies. Don't forget the ankle tag. Northern India. Around Delhi, the Jats speak a harsh sounding dialect of Hindi, usually farmers, army men or policemen. Big focus on physical strength, love fuel guzzling SUVs, a little hot-headed, nationalists with hostility for Muslims, Brahmins and the lower castes. The dialect may sound rude, but it is an extremely casual speech, even more casual than the casual Hindi. P.S. I am one of them, but my parents took us to the city and I lost all my jot trays. We've got rednecks in Canada too. It's quite strange, really, because they do the whole Confederate flag the South will rise again thing. I don't know if it's ironic or if they're such sectarian pieces of crap that they want to turn our country into a slave estate from the 1860s. Other than that, they mostly drive loud, annoyingly large trucks and shoot guns. The South will rise again is extra baffling for Canada. Australia. Over here we call them bogans. There's usually a couple of them in each town. You can tell because of their appearance. They wear Ugg boots, trackies, and a hoodie. Also, at least one of their clothing items is Nike. They are usually nice people if you know them, but if you're a visitor in town and you just so happen to be caught glimpsing at them, be prepared to be socially shunned by them yelling at you with a durry in mouth and VB in other hand. And they're quite hard to understand. If you didn't grow up in Australia and you get told off by a bogan, you'd probably crap your pants because their accent is real thick. Are you fucking serious, mate? You looking at my Uggies? You jealous of them, mate? Get you and your fancy fucking BMW and fuck off. If you don't understand the Aussie slang, just let me know. Austria. They walk around in the traditional clothing of 100 years ago, vote FPO diaresis and hate all minorities, all majorities, the neighbors and basically everything. I think. I can't understand them because they always speak dialect. If you don't understand their dialect, you're a dumb gay foreigner. Drinking beer all the day, having 6 kids from different fathers, being on Facebook all the day, having a tattoo with a sentence which could come from Jaden Smith, eating McDonald's every day but ordering Coke Light, having an iPhone even if you don't have the money for it, being a football hooligan, and every post on Facebook starts with I am no Nazi but, and ends with something totally xenophobic. Germany. Romania. Here, our rednecks smell like sweat and cheap cologne. Also, the concept of headphones is completely unfamiliar to them, which makes it very annoying on public transportation. They are rude, stupid, and catcalling is one of their favorite techniques. Oh, and they eat sunflower seeds all the time, and spit the shells on the ground. The concept of headphones is completely unfamiliar to them, which makes it very annoying on public transportation. Interesting. I think this is universal of the world's trash. Albania. Dumb, cruel, nationalist creatures who like you to be killed if you don't think the way they do. They usually have not been to school and live with what they grow or steal. South African. Here, Our redneck specific breed of blonde-haired, blue-eyed characters, super into trance music, hunting, and motorcycles. The guys have a highly gelled, comb-over foxhawk and the girls have white blonde hair with dark roots. They usually say stuff like, "I don't hate the blacks, but the government worked better during apartheid." In Russia, those are simple-minded, naive by city standards, big-hearted people. The youth is usually pretty shy when in cities themselves. Funny accent, very informal speech with lots of swearing unless you're a guest or visibly from the city. Then you get some special treatment. Can go both ways though. They love to talk to you because it's pretty boring in the villages and you're like from another world. If you pee them off, well, they don't hold anything back or dance around. They go straight to the business. Men are either hardworking or alcoholics. If you got no job, you have nothing better to do. Women gossip all day long. Teenagers can get pretty cruel with the fellows that are urbanizing. Jealousy and all. I've never had bad experiences with rurals, as you can see. Finally, my time to shine. Although I am not a native-born Indian, I'm as American as they get. I always love explaining others how I am from the rednecks of India. My parents are from northwest India, and are known as Punjabis. This is where the Sikh religion was created and where a majority of Sikhs live. It is hard for my friends to understand how I am not a curry-eating, cow-worshipping, and telemarketing India. In order to give them the gist of it, I tell them that my type of Indians are basically rednecks. It's either we are extremely drunk, or extremely religious. We are basically poor butt farmers who are stubborn as all heck. Traditional to the bone, with our own backwards form of saying stuff to others. We also have songs bragging about our tractors and have guns all over the place. Almost forgot. We also use swords for stuff still. It is also extremely easy to spot us due to our attire. Turbans. Turbans everywhere. Men. Children. Even freaking women. Also I'm fairly certain there is a lot of marrying your cousins in the dirt poor parts of the region. But that is basically all of India. So that isn't much of a surprise. TL. Doctor, I have basically been waiting for this post my whole Reddit life so I can rant about stupid similarities I made when explaining other Americans. WTF I am. Pretty much the same as American rednecks except the farther north you go the more rednecks you encounter, not farther south. Cuban here. Fear called balseros, refs, because they show absolutely no class or morals. They listen to reggaeton and only reggaeton even though it's the same beat in every song. They wear clothes too tight for their bodies, especially when they're overweight. This goes for both gender. The men shave their chests and legs and arms and wear tight polos or deep V-necks and wear strong cologne. Men also wear excessive jewelry. I'm talking fat rings, big watches and chains enough to make the outfit look goofy. They're all about hypermasculinity to the point where it's honestly cringe. They're loud, blatantly hate gays and black people, but everything they say is in good joke even though it's offensive as heck. They're the worst of the island. Australia. Bogans. Arguably around 20-30% of the population. Heavy focus on alcohol, particularly beer, an example being VB, boxed wine, goon, and drunken nights in Bali, in Indonesia, and moonlight parties in Thailand. Such events are the lowest point of civilization and the average IQ of attendance hovers around 75. Often seen wearing tank tops, wiffle beaters, and trackies, tracksuit pants, for men and women, as well as fake tans and bleached hair for the latter. Often smoke and some do ice. Enjoy the main sport of their state, AFL for Victoria and NSW, rugby for Queensland. Have a very distinct Ocker accent that is mostly the stereotypical outback accent combined with the slack jaw and slurring of a drunk deaf person. Often ignorant, with sectarian, conservative tendencies and high rates of xenophobia, are often liberal national voters. Bogans are not strictly limited to rural or outer suburban areas. You will see them every day even in the cultivated parts of the main cities and the cosmopolitan left-wing hipster suburbs. Some variants include cashed up bogans, rich bogans, usually business people that have somehow, usually through family and community connections in the mining industry, managed to make a career, and hipster bogans, of which include some frick boys and lads, young men with behavior associated with the uneducated lower class. Why would anyone in Australia ever need a fake tan and cancer? You can go outside and get a real tan and cancer. Unlike any other living being, West Virginia mountain people, are they really American? They're really their own species. In Scotland we have Neds. They're similar to the rest of the UK's chavs but talk their own high-pitched slang and dialect that the rest of us here can't even understand most of the time. They also base 90% of their actions on sectarian football violence. 9 times out of 10 they're also addicted to at least 2 different drugs. Don't forget their love of buckfast, although these days perhaps they drink more MD20/20. I'm from a small town in Alberta, Canada. The rednecks I grew up with all typically work as laborers in the oil field, rip around pie-eyed in trucks screaming yee yee, and Berta absolutely love anything outdoors but give zero fricks about the environment. Only because the left-leaning parties care about it, and they'd rather put skewers through their eyes than vote NDP or Liberal. Love racial slurs and jokes, but become super uncomfortable or scared when face to face with an actual minority. My god, can they drink? I live on the east coast of Canada, which is referred to as the Maritimes. Watch Trailer Park Boys on Netflix if you would like to know what our rednecks are like. Mexican American here. I always heard the term chuntero, often shortened to chunt, sometimes naco, used to describe certain Mexicans from Mexico who were rural and uneducated, like cowboy boots and cowboy hat and giant belt buckle, listening to banda circus music with the tubas and accordions and crap. Can't speak English at all. We're talking about north of the border, raising chickens and goats right smack in the middle of a city of millions, and not in the cute hipster way, painting their houses fluorescent green, etc. etc. I've heard more bougie Mexican Americans, to use an African American term, use the term ranch Mexicans. Norway. Well, northern Norway anyway. Snow scooters. Driving around aimlessly in cars with teenage girls and tight jeans. Tribal tattoos or Chinese symbol tattoos are prevalent. Moonshine. Binge drinking. Very traditional masculine community with the nagging wives at home. Duct tape fix-its and stuff like fancy electronics are status symbols. Half the guys are mechanics. Most of the girls got pregnant right out of school. Skillies, or the media term chav. The males are broadly jobless Adidas clinical dress cockslaps that spend their time roaming the streets drinking cans of Carlsberg or energy drinks, still conquering well into their 20s, and playing exclusively happy hardcore on their phones, preferably on public transport. 90% own a mountain bike, 30% own a moped, 10% own a motorbike, 1% own a quad bike. All of these are stolen. The police make no effort to prosecute them. Arguments usually happen in the street, and if at all possible at night, with either some ragged rotten wench in bleached jeans or surprisingly a very attractive well-turned-out woman who is fighting for his affections for some unexplained reason. Usual stomping ground is their own front, or their uncle's who has an old chip van parked in his driveway, or the roughest pub in the area where they stand outside nursing the racing post smoking and drinking amongst all the mobility scooters, usually seen hanging around McDonald's on a Saturday and sometimes seen carrying fishing rods down to the river. The industrious few have fashion trailers for their bikes so they can earn an extra crust collecting and selling scrap metal. If the sun comes out it's tops off so we can appreciate their milk white bodies and regrettable tattoos. For Slovenia, I would say that we have 3 very different rednecks. Skinheads, probably known in most parts of the world. They usually think in a Nazi way and they want only Slovenes to live in Slovenia. So Slavic people and Nazi thinking. Suffragi second and third generation of migrants from Bosnia, Serbia and Albania. Mostly Albania. They just behave in a strange way and dislike Slovenian language, system. Wannabe Suffragi, usually 16-22 years old folks, that wants to behave like Suffragi. They dress like them, but are usually native Slovenes. In Newfoundland Canada we have people who eat nothing but fish and chips, fries, and speak with a Newfoundland accent, mainly consists of boys. What are you at? You're as stunned as me ass, I says while riding dirt bikes at Vs on public roads. Philippines. I'm going to guess this is equivalent to that old man who hangs around all day with his massive beer gut out but is shirtless most days. He wears cargo shorts and drinks Red Horse. At nights, they drink out near the street corner with Imperator or some other cheap brandy. In Germany it depends on where you live, but a common word is Hartzer. In Germany, if you don't have a job, you get Hart IV from the government to help you out. But lots of them are like, no, I don't need a job, I'm too good for that. I don't want to work as a pizza boy or a cleaner, crap like that. And they always complain about everything, but are too dumb to change their live by themselves. Most of them are in their mid-40s or got pregnant at 16 and don't know who the father is, but that depends on your region too. We have Bavarians in Germany. You all know Oktoberfest, aka Beerfest, etc. Those guys. Not all Germans have those traditions, okay? Like, go to Disneyland, and in the German district everyone is wearing those short leather pants, lederhosen, and the women are wearing that particular dress, dirndl. But this is the traditional wear of one subsection of the German people. In the south of Germany, to the east, Bavaria resides. We make jokes about them, like, inbreeding is a real problem in those remote mountain villages, right? The kind of remoteness we talk about in Germany are laughable to Americans, but they like beer, have a funny accent, even to Germans, to the point where we don't even understand them, and like to go hunting. Cuckoo clocks, renowned for their Germanness, pretty much only come out of that region. Traditional, conservative values are particularly associated with Bavaria. This is proven again and again during voting season. Plus, they are predominantly Catholic. The whole conservative, Catholic, backwater setting gives rise to a lot of prejudice and presumptions that Bavarians are sectarian. I simply don't know whether that's true. Full disclosure, I have relatives there, who are the sweetest, down-to-earth people. Wholesome. It's like lawn gnomes had become people. Alright. It's like lawn gnomes had become people. That's legitimately the most fitting description of Bavaria I have ever seen in my life. It depends what is meant by redneck. People sometimes use the word interchangeably with white trash. In Israel, I guess the closest thing is either Arsim or Kibbutzim. But the two groups are not very similar. Arsim are closer to Jersey Shore trash, who most people don't like as they are loud and uncouth. Kibbutznikim are more like country bumpkins who are a little weird but overall nice. Canada. They look almost identical to American rednecks, but they are less apt to shoot you. They drive pickup trucks and wear dirty baseball caps. They will always find a reason to start power tools at 7 AM on a Saturday morning. They burn giant fires with 9-foot flames in small 60-foot lots in small towns. They park like douche bags. They launch commercial grade fireworks from that same small town property. I have them living in a radius around me and I hate them. Let me explain the delicate creature native to the Australian culture, the bogan, known for ingesting large amounts of goon, cask wine for the readers at home. They often find themselves in sticky situations. A constant "can I pinch a durry bra" can be heard, along with the term "nayin mate." Can usually be found wearing branded shoes, usually but not always funded by Centrelink. Natural habitat is known as a mish, which is a shortened term for housing commission. Overall, dangerous bunch. Best to avoid at any and all costs. Canadian here. I live in Alberta, which is redneck central of Canada, and feel I am an authority to answer this question. Ours are basically envious of the American rednecks and try to be like them in a lot of ways, it seems. They listen to country music, have a cowboy identity, which is bigger the further south you go, think of themselves as working class, more so the more north you go towards the oil sands, drive pick up trucks with a bunch of accessories worth at least half of the truck's value, vote for conservative parties, though Edmonton is starting to go liberal, big into outdoors stuff, drink beer Old Milwaukee, Pilsner, Busch, anything cheap. Molson is too commercial for them, and Labatt is the Fosters of Canada in that nobody here drinks that dog pee and shoot guns. Contrary to what American politicians tell you, it's not really that hard to get firearms in Canada. Oh, and a lot of them live in small towns within commuting driving distance from big cities which they work shop in. India. We have got radical Hindus who would rather value a cow's life and will building shelters for them and at the same time lynch people of other religions and scoff at women's rights. AKA the government. Do non-Americans think rednecks in the US is only used for people in the South? Every state in the US will have people they refer to as rednecks. Canada. Mostly just rednecks. Around my area they've grown up as fuckboys and never gotten out of that stage. Rude, ignorant, have a passion for hunting and the outdoors, and sometimes will let you bum some jerky off of them. Obligatory sorry eh? In the Netherlands, people living in trailer parks. Free from all taxes, so goes the rumor. Fences around the places they own. Gold necklaces, big bellies, women with huge, blonde, puffy haircuts, and of course, it's the Netherlands. They all deal in drugs. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.